Hello everyone, this is for section 6.1 for law of sines. This is going to be used for, you can use it for any triangle, though if it's a right triangle, I would just stick with regular SOHCAHTOA. Just letting you know though, it can be used on any triangle, whether it's a right triangle or not. But SOHCAHTOA can only be used on right triangles. So this can be used on everything. This can only be used on right triangles. And you can pretty much bet that we're going to be working with non-right triangles in these next two sections. So I wouldn't rely on SOHCAHTOA to do any of this unless you're specifically told you have a right triangle. If you're not told what type of triangle it is, don't try and use SOHCAHTOA. This is what you're going to have to use. This is just setting up a series of proportions and remembering how to solve a proportion. Say you have this, you just cross multiply. So we'd have 14 is equal to 5x, and then you divide by 5 and you have what x is worth. It doesn't matter if the variable's on top or on bottom. If you were to have 2/5 is equal to 11/3, whoops, suppose I need a variable in there somewhere. So 2/5 is equal to 11 over x. You have the variables on the bottom, doesn't matter, cross multiply, and then divide by 2 and you have what x is worth. This next piece of information is you have to be told one pair of information. And by a pair, I mean an angle and its side. If you don't know an angle and its side, you can't do law of sine. That's going to be law of cosine. So to do law of sine, you have to know one complete pair of information. And I'll set some up in just a second and you guys can see what I mean by that. You have to know half the information. You have 3 angles and 3 sides. This leads to 2 different categories. You can know 2 angles and 1 side, or you can know 1 angle and 2 sides. Okay? It's not so important that you memorize this. I'm just giving you the information of how law of sine is usually described. Okay? Remember, the Pythagorean theorem can only be used when you have right triangles. So if you're told 2 sides and 1 angle, you can't do the Pythagorean theorem to find the third side, because this is only true on right triangles. So when you have a non-right triangle, you can't assume, what for starters, that C is the longest side, but also this only works on right triangles. So don't try it unless you specifically know it's a right triangle. Okay, so here's a situation where you're given 2 angles and 1 side. In order to solve this, notice that you have one complete fraction. You know the angle and the side that's opposite it. Okay, remember that side B is going to be opposite angle B. Uppercase letters are angles, lowercase letters are sides. Okay. To solve this, I don't know any information about this one, so discard it at the moment. Don't look at it. It's not useful right now. Here you have a proportion, so you cross multiply. C times sine of 28.7 equals 27.4 times the sine of 102.3. Okay. To solve for C, then you're going to divide both sides, so you get C all alone, because this is held by multiplication, the sine of 28.7. Okay, so on this cancels out, and you type this in the calculator. One thing you need to watch out for as you're doing this is that will automatically give you a parenthesis here when you type sine. Make sure you close this parenthesis before you hit the division symbol. Okay, so just typing it in. Oh, and make sure your calculator is in degrees, because you're typing degrees in. If it's in radians, it's not going to work. Okay, because it thinks you're typing in this specific one here, 102.3 radians. So make sure you're putting your calculator mode is set to degrees. So 27.4 times the sine 102.3, close the paren, divided by sine of 28.7. And you get side C is about, and we'll just round it to the nearest hundredth, 55.75. And that is not an angle, so you don't put a degree symbol with it. It's the length of a side that you're solving for. So now I know that this is 55.74. Okay. Because you're told 2 angles, you actually do know angle A. because whether it's a right triangle or not, all your angles add up to 180 degrees. So if you cut those two angles off of 180, you actually know the third angle. Whoops, 102.3 degrees. Okay, so 180 minus 28.7 minus 102.3, and you get this angle is 49 degrees. Okay, so this angle is 49 degrees. We did find side C. You could ignore this piece of information in here and cross multiply here, but I'm just saying that that's an option. All I'm saying is that if you manufacture a number and you made a mistake on it, let's say you actually came up with this as 65, if this is wrong and you use it to find other information, then side A is automatically going to be wrong. So I think you probably have less of a chance of making a mistake in subtracting the angles than you do in actually finding side C. So I'd recommend that you don't use this fraction and you use this one. Yeah, it's closer and you don't have to rearrange it. I'm saying, just in the interest of full disclosure, that I would avoid it. Okay? So then you just cross multiply again. So you have 27.4 times the sine of 49 degrees equals A times the sine of 28.7 degrees. And then you want to solve for side A, so divide out the sine of 28.7 degrees. And proceed to type that in your calculator. So 27.4 sine 49, close it, divide by sine of 28.7. And you get side A is about 43.06. Okay? And then you finish solving the triangle and you're done. Okay, so next type. This is what I was saying, you have to know a complete pair. Here you don't know an angle and a side. You don't know a complete pair. Okay, in order to do that, if I were to cross multiply using any combination of two of these, say for example here, I've got B sine A equals 3 sine 45. I can't possibly solve for either of these because I have two variables, so you have to know a complete pair. Here, even though the information I'm given doesn't set me up as a complete pair, because I know two of the angles, I automatically know angle C, because all three angles have to add up to 180. So you just take 180 and you cut off the angles that you're told to find this angle is 39 degrees. And now you can proceed using, say we'll do this one first. So you have 22 sine of 98 equals B sine 39. Whoops, little b, I was going to write big B, sine 39. And then just like in the previous problem, you would divide by the sine of 39 to find side B. This is again an example of I've had to calculate side B. I would avoid using this one now to find side A. And I would start over and go A sine 39 equals 22 sine 43, and then divide out sine of 39 to find side A. Okay, so that's how you'd finish this one. Type it in your calculator and you'd have what A is. Okay, in the interest of time, I don't know if it's beneficial to type that in. I guess if you want me to, because you want to try this on your own, see if it's coming out right. 22 sine 43, be sure and close the paren, divide by sine 39. Gives me A is about 23.84. Okay. Here, you're given two sides and one angle. Because you have one complete pair, you can do it. Now, you either go for angle B first, or, well, I guess you have to go for angle B first. I shouldn't have prefaced it that way. You have to go for this because you don't know either of these pieces of information. So you have to start by finding angle B. So, cross multiply, 22 sine B is equal to 12 sine of 42 degrees. Divide out, I'm going for B, divide out the 22, and you have sine B is equal to 12 sine 42. Sorry, that came out like a 9. Let's see if I can fix that. (42) over 22. Now I want to solve for angle B. I have to get rid of the sine. So you have to take the inverse sine of both sides. Inverse sine. And type all this in at once. Don't figure out like the center part and then go inverse sine. Just type the sucker in as you see it. So inverse sine forces the paren, 12 sine 42. Be sure and close that parenthesis. Divide by 22. Close it all. And then enter. And you get B is about 21.41 degrees. Okay? Now, in the previous one, I warned you guys about using information that you find in order to get future information. Here, it's completely unavoidable. You have to use this piece of information to get the next one. And it's just the risk that you have to take. Degrees. Okay? Because the only way I'm going to get any information about these two, because the Pythagorean theorem is not an option, is by using this piece of information and the original angle and cut them off at 180. So go 180 minus the angle you just found, 21.41 degrees, minus the angle that you're told, 42 degrees. And that will find you angle C. So 180 minus that answer, minus 42 degrees, gives me this angle is 116.59 degrees. Okay? Now, it really doesn't matter which one you cross multiply. If you want, these two are together. If you want to just cross multiply these, so you'd have C sine of 21.41 degrees equals 12 sine of 116.59, sorry for the hesitation there, and you want to solve for side C, so you divide by sine of 21.41 degrees. Sorry, that closed. Sine of 21.41 degrees. Okay? That will give you side C. You could also have gone to this one and gone 22 sine 116.59 degrees equals C sine 42. C sine 42. Divide out sine of 42. And you'll then also have side C. So it doesn't matter which pairing you use to find that third side. Okay? This brings up the next example, which is the next section that you guys have to work with. So that's the end of this video.